Hey, Kim.
Hello.
Hey, I
How's it
won't bother.
going?
I won't bother you if you're like all getting ready for.
Oh,
Uh,
thanks. Yeah, I'm looking at a couple slides that Kristen isn't feeling well. So she's like, might you be able to do my slides if I can't? So I'm like checking them over.
no worries.
Cool.
Hey,
I'll be back.
we can always chat later. No worries.
Cool.
Let me know if you need anything. I'll be off camera until we start.
Cool. Hello.
Hi, Kim.
How's it going?
Good. You ready for this?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do right now. Trying to make sure I am.
I'm sure it'll be great.
Thanks.
A lot of people, though, huh?
Yeah. Supposedly like 93 people were registered. And I've also gotten a number of emails from people. I think an email was sent out to Matagit people to send us emails to comment about the boundary. So I've been getting some emails about that as well.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Might be actually even easier.
Right.
To do if you
I don't know if
that.
that's going to be talked about here, but we'll see.
Okay. Good.
What was the deal with the Chandlery? Is that how you pronounce it?
Chandlery.
Chandlery. There used to be one, and now there isn't anymore.
I think there is one. There used to be another one.
Okay.
And the one that exists now, I think that the building it's in is going to be sold, and it's unlikely that it'll continue on.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought there was a question about whether there was a requirement in
Oh,
any
a
kind of
chapter 91.
licensing for it to be used for that purpose. That seems awfully specific, but I'm not sure.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
So I might just breeze over that just so I don't get into too many details, but
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I think that goes,
Yeah.
Kim. It's really like services for boaters, really. It falls
Boaters,
under
yeah.
that category.
okay. And that they sell boating supplies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
parts, particularly, I think, mechanical parts and the like.
Yeah. Okay.
But all
So-
sorts of things.
Cool. Oh, here, Allison, I'll make you co-host.
Ooh, heck.
Oh, I'll just make all you guys co-hosts. Why not?
Everybody's a co-host.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi, everybody.
How's it
Here's a
going?
good crowd.
Mhm. How are you feeling, Kristen? Not good. Do you want me
Not sick, are you?
you want me to do those slides, or we could have Jack do those slides?
I think I'll be all right. If I'm not here when it's my turn, just somebody else jump in.
Cool. We'll jump in.
What's the matter with you?
I've been having an argument with my stomach all day.
Oh.
It really wants to come up through my mouth.
Oh
Ugh,
no.
yuck. Yuck.
Kim, you're gonna show your slides, right? Or
Yeah.
the slides. Okay.
I'll show them from here.
Do you need any tech support?
Just thinking about like the comments that come in, if they're coming in on the chat. I mentioned we're going to try to read them aloud if we can, assuming there's time and everything. So I likely can do that part. I feel like Jeff normally does a lot of the moderating part of it. So I can likely, jump in with some comments I'm seeing in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't think otherwise, I mean, just once it starts, I just made you guys all co-hosts. So just like letting people in if they're in the waiting room.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, with the number that I think Shannon was reporting today, like 90 plus, I mean, that's
Mhm.
going to be hard to even see if people are raising their hand.
Yep.
Mhm.
93. I
Oh,
think
Dak,
well,
oh, sorry.
their hand, they come to the front of your
Yeah.
screen.
Oh, they do.
Yeah,
So our screen may just show all people with their hands up then,
yeah.
essentially. Yeah.
Essentially.
Dak, do you have the link to the plotting tool available?
Yes, I do.
Great.
I'll put that in the chat.
Thank-
Right. There. I'm gonna double check that that's real. Yep, that's the one.
All right, great. Yep, okay, that's awesome. So comment. Those changes look great.
Hi, Kim.
Cool. Looks great. Hi, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. We have a bunch of people in the waiting room, 24. Oh, Bob, that might be my dad. There's Jeff. Let him in. All right. So it's 6:30. Here comes Jeff and Tara. Let me wait for them to get settled and then we can.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hey everybody, how are you guys tonight?
Good. How are you?
Doing all right. I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually enjoying the fact that we're doing this all remotely because I am still in the process of making my family dinner while I'm chatting online.
Very nice. Very nice. Are you okay with doing the first few slides still?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll even pause from cooking for a minute.
Okay.
But maybe my first public meeting while I'm cooking. I feel a little
Yeah.
like being a child.
good multitasking.
Well, it's either that or you got a bunch of hangry kids.
Yeah.
I vote for the cooking.
Yeah. All right. Should I let everyone in?
How many are there?
Right now there are 30 in the waiting room.
How many?
30?
Holy smoke.
Yeah, and I guess 93 signed up, so I don't know if that many will be coming, but all right, you ready? Oh wait, let me share my screen with the slide show. Oops. Share this. And I want that to be smaller. Oh well, it's okay. All right, I'm gonna let everybody in.
Tim, we need it in presentation mode.
Yeah, I want it
there we
just
go.
to be.
Now it's there. Yep.
Oh gosh, I want it to not take up my entire screen. Oh well, okay, that's fine. I can handle it. All right, I'll let everyone in. Actually, can somebody else let everyone in? I've like somehow lost control over everything.
Let everyone in.
Cool, thank you. All right, hi everyone. Thank you guys for joining. We're getting settled over here. We'll be starting in just a minute, but in the meantime, if you wouldn't mind putting your microphones on mute, that would be great. There will be an opportunity for people to participate in a little bit, but for now, we're going to do a short presentation, so it'd be great if everyone was on mute.
You right here.
All right, great. Do we want to get started? Jeff, do you want to start opening it up?
Sure, I'm happy to get started whenever you guys are.
Great, I think we're ready.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. This is Jeff Carlson. I'm the director of the Natural Resources Department for the town of Nantucket. Thank you for coming to our fourth public meeting on input on the Nantucket and Mattocket Harbors Action Plan. This is the first one we've done all remote, but we're happy to put this on tonight and give people a chance to share their thoughts on what they'd like to see happen in and around Nantucket and Mattocket Harbors. Hopefully understand the harbor planning process a little bit better and what we get from it, and get some really good public info from you guys and see where we go. So I guess if we could skip to the next slide. So today, what we really have is a really brief introduction from our team. We've partnered with the Urban Harbors Institute from UMass Boston. And primarily tonight, we'll be hearing from Kim Starbuck, but we also have Kristen Uterick, who's the director of Urban Harbors, and Jack Wiggin, who helped us with the previous harbor plan and is the former director on, as well as their more than capable staff. They'll be helping us today and talking about what harbor planning is. We're going to have a little bit of an open forum to go through everyone's thoughts and get things from you guys. And we're also excited to show off the cool online mapping tool that Urban Harbors has worked with the Woods Hole Group to put together for you guys to have a different kind of experience to share your comments, other than tonight, where you can mark up a map and mark up things that you think are interesting. And hopefully we'll get through all of that pretty efficiently this evening. My last slide. So this is just some rules for tonight, and we'll try to do this as best we can. Please stay on mute unless you're looking to speak, and raise your hand whenever possible to do that. If you can't get on through that way, please put in any comments in the chat box. We'll read them aloud, but the cool thing with the chat box and the recording is that all of the chat comments will be logged into the permanent record, and we can always get to those at a later date if we can't get all of them read into the record tonight. Like we said, we're here to hear from you guys. So I think that's it for me. Oh, sorry. I have one more slide. They snuck an extra one in on me today. So really what we're looking to do is the harbor planning process that they'll talk about a little bit is it's a plan that really gives a framework for the town and the state for how we're looking to utilize our harbors and the recreational and commercial interests that surround those, and really provide kind of a framework for the next 10 years on how we're looking to do. And really, this is just the start. This is, like I said, our fourth public process. After this one, we're going to really buckle down with the committee and get some writing done, and Urban Harbors will get a good chunk of writing done. And hopefully a little later this fall into early winter, we'll have a draft to come back and show to everybody and get everybody's thoughts a second time before we start into the final hearing process that they'll talk about a little bit in their presentation. But again, thank you guys for coming. Hopefully we'll get lots of great feedback tonight. And I'll turn it over to Kim.
Great. I think, Kristen, are you available to jump in?
I am. I want to thank everyone for being here. It looks like we have almost 50 people here, which is very exciting. And we, the Urban Harbors Institute, and our partners at Woods Hole Group are really grateful for your attendance today. As Jeff said, this is really an opportunity for us to hear from you about the needs and opportunities that you see for Nantucket. As I think Jeff mentioned, this is an update to your 2009 harbor plan. And you'll see on the map on the screen, two areas that are sort of shaded in gray. Those areas are the planning areas. It's by no means a boundary. We certainly can look outside these areas, but really the plan will focus on these two areas in Nantucket and Mattocket harbors. And what we're looking to do is create a document that really captures your goals for these areas. We are going to be looking at what the needs and opportunities are and learning from you folks, as well as conducting a number of interviews, document reviews to come up with vision statement and goals to guide the land use and the water use within these planning areas. And part of the plan will also be a series of recommendations on how to address the goals and visions. And the topic areas, as you'll see later on in the presentation and in the discussion tonight, focus on very similar if you've seen the 2009 plan, but things like boating, fishing, climate change. Climate change is new this time around. Public access, and there are multiple reasons why the town would go forward with a harbor plan. In your case, this is an update, and you have to do one, otherwise your old one is no longer valid. So the harbor plans inform the state, specifically DEP and CZM, or primarily CZM and DEP, with regard to decisions made within these planning areas. Kim, if you want to get to the next slide. As a state-approved municipal harbor plan, there's a quite lengthy process. You guys have, well, we are in the second red circle, the local public meetings on plan components. The municipality has also already requested notice to proceed, which is sort of a formality for the state process, and you've received the thumbs up to go ahead and do this planning process, which means that there's a 2-year timeline that kicked off about 2 or 3 weeks ago, in which we have to develop this plan. The plan will go through a lot of public engagement, as I mentioned, and some document review and interviews. We'll put together a draft, and you'll have an opportunity to see that draft and weigh in during the process. Really, this process that's shown in the flow charts is part of the state regulations, if you're interested in looking into it. And it is voluntary for municipality. Not all municipalities who have harbor plans seek state-approved ones, but in Nantucket's case, it's definitely beneficial because it provides licensing guidelines to DEP. So if you're familiar with Chapter 91 licenses, municipal harbor plan is the primary way in which a municipality is able to influence what goes into those license conditions. Kim, if you would go to the next slide. In terms of the timeline, we are where the red circles are. So there's a public survey that's live that I'm sure Kim will talk about as the presentation unfolds. And we've been doing a lot of public meetings. We, I think, kicked off in June with a public meeting. We had 2 last month, one in Nantucket Harbor and one in Madaket Harbor. And now we're doing this online meeting. And really these 4 meetings reflects the importance of having the opportunity to hear from the public. So again, we're really grateful that you've come. We hope you participate in the survey and share it with others. And then Woods Hole Group really made a fantastic tool that we hope that you guys will explore and provide feedback that way. There will be additional public engagement opportunities once the draft is done. I will say the committee meetings, we meet at least monthly, and those are also open to the public. So if you had a comment, you are welcome to join those meetings. Kim will also show contact information at the end of this presentation. You're always welcome to reach out to UHI or the town with any questions or comments. But you will have an opportunity to review the draft plan in the winter, and there will be a public meeting following that just to make sure that we've captured everything. At least one public meeting, I envision probably more than one. And then as the plan goes through the municipal approval process, there'll be additional public engagement opportunities. And then as it goes through the state approval process, there's also a public hearing opportunity. Once the plan is done, very importantly, it's the town's job, and perhaps some of you on this call's job, to really see the plan through with implementation. And so we'll work with the municipality and the committee to make sure that the way that the plan is written is something that's easy for you guys to take and run with after Woods Hole Group and UHI are no longer working with you. So I think that is it on timeline and engagement. Kim, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. So I'm Kim Starbuck. I also work at the Urban Harbors Institute. And again, we're helping the town and the committee, who we have a number of committee members on the call today. We're helping them with updating the 2009 plan. So I have just a couple more slides, and then really what we want the bulk of this meeting to be is hearing from you all about issues that you see happening in the harbor, any recommendations for possibly improving on those issues, concerns that you're having, or even questions that you're having. So first, just the 2009 plan, it updated the 1993 harbor plan. And generally you want plans updated every 10 years or so. So you guys are on track and needing a new update to the plan. The 2009 plan was a very thick, dense document, and it had over 100 recommendations in that document related to water quality, natural resources, boating and navigation, public access, fishing, and the commercial waterfront. So a lot of recommendations, and there was really significant action taken on most of those recommendations. So there really was a lot of progress that came out of the 2009 plan. So we're looking forward to creating another plan that hopefully makes as much of an impact. And so right now, what we're looking to do is to develop new recommendations that are related to any new issues going on or ongoing issues that have been going on for a while. So a few successes from the 2009 plan. There are a lot of successes, it's just kind of a handful. There was a shellfish management plan, which actually the Urban Harbors Institute helped work on, a shellfish management plan that really focused on improving the scallop populations. Talked a lot about public access to the waterways and how to improve that. We adopted, or the town adopted, a harbor overlay district in support of the commercial waterfronts. There was improvement made in the management of the moorings. The jetties at the entrance of Nantucket Harbor were repaired and raised. And then there were several ongoing initiatives for improving water quality. So a lot of really great successes coming out of that plan. Then we've had, so now, as you likely heard, we've had a number of public meetings and have already gotten a lot of really great feedback. Maybe some of you all on this call have actually already been to a public meeting. So we've had 4 public meetings and we've gotten a ton of feedback. This is just kind of a, overarching, here are some things that we've heard about, and we'd like to keep hearing about them. So related to water quality and natural resources, we've heard a lot about nitrogen loading, fertilizers, any sort of septic system leakages, enforcement needed, the need for more data, and a lot of stormwater issues, and then also the need for more education. Under boating and navigation, we've heard a lot about high fuel costs for boats, the need for more moorings, docks, and ramps, concerns over vessel speed and safety, any sort of boating facilities that might be needed. We've heard a few times some issues going on with the chandlery. And then we've also heard about the need for dredging in some areas. Related to public access, we've heard about concerns just about climate change and how that might impact public access. We've heard about barriers that people are having to access the waterfront, Chapter 91 issues, and then also we've heard about just some new potential access opportunities that people would like to see have happen. Related to fishing, we've heard about dredging needs and also the potential effect that dredging could have on some species of fish and shellfish, water quality impacts, general access for the fisheries, and any sort of threats to the fishing community, including any threats to the workforce. For coastal resiliency, you all just recently had a coastal resiliency plan finalized. So we've been thinking a lot about plan integration, so how to make sure that these 2 plans work together. And we also have heard some concern about very specific resiliency issues happening around the harbors, and also just other ways that we might be able to help build up the resiliency of the island. And then related to commercial and residential waterfront, we've heard a lot about needing more support services for users, more access points, more parking, potential waterfront upgrades. So this is just, we've heard a lot more than this, but this is just kind of an overview of some of the concepts that we've heard about. And I believe that is all before we get into the open forum segment of this. And so just a quick overview of what we're going to be doing. So we have some discussion topics that we want you all to think about, which include boating and navigation, fishing and shellfishing, water quality and natural resources, public access, coastal resiliency, commercial waterfront, Chapter 91, docks and piers, and then really anything else you want to talk about that's related to Nantucket Harbor and Madaket Harbor. So what we want is to open up the forum here to have people share any ideas or concerns that they're having about the harbors. Before I start that though, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can see everyone. And I want to see if anybody has any questions about what we just covered, about what we're doing, the plan update, where we are in the process, why we're doing this, if anybody has any questions. And so again, to make a comment, you can raise your hand, which I should remember how to raise your hand. How do you raise your hand? Oh, I think you
It's in
can.
the reactions, Kim.
Oh, yeah.
So if folks go to the bottom
Okay.
of their screen, they'll see a happy face with a plus sign.
Yeah.
And you can click on that and raise your hand.
Great. So you can raise your hand if you have any questions, or you also can write in the chat box. And if we don't have any questions, then we can jump into the comments segment. All right, great. And if you guys all want to, just so we know kind of who's in the room, you can put in the chat box your name and, you know, something about yourself related to Nantucket. Are you a year-round resident, a seasonal resident, tourist? Do you work on the island? Anything that you'd like to share. But what we can do now is we can start. I'll put the discussion topics into the chat box so you can see, but remember you really can talk about anything related to the harbors that you might be concerned about. All right, great. And Jeff and any of the committee members that are on, I see Seth is here, Tara Riley, Steve. I still think I saw Samantha come in, Emily. So they all will be, I see a number of other people, Jesse, lots of committee members are on here too. So feel free for anybody else to also jump in and help answer any questions that may come up. All right, great. I see Matt.
Sure. So if you want to move this to the comment section, that's fine. But can you just explain the this action plan versus some of the other things going on with water quality work, just for those of us who aren't fully in the weeds, just to understand when things are relevant to this versus other things going on around the island?
Yeah, so really, this plan is meant to really provide a framework for all of you moving forward to identify what are the big problems that you guys see happening and what are some recommendations. And so a lot of the work that's happening with water quality, a lot of the water quality testing, we're taking all that information in and we're going to be summarizing that in the plan. Also, you know, we'll basically be taking the relevant factors from these different plans that have happened that are related to what we're looking to have happen in the harbors and include that in our plan. So obviously we don't want to be repetitive and we don't want to, you know, just kind of do what has already been done, but take those relevant pieces and then expand on them and broaden them to make some clear recommendations moving forward.
Got it. Thanks.
All right, great. One other thing I should note, there are a few different ways to participate. There are these public meetings. Also, I will put a chat in the chat box. I'll put a link to our online survey, which if you haven't participated in that, please take that. And then also at the end, we have this really cool online mapping tool that if anybody wants to stay on after, we can kind of go through and show you guys how to use it.
Just to add on to that really for a quick second, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
If people also have comments that they think of after this, please feel free to reach out. Our emails are all available. They'll be at the end of the presentation. Obviously, Tara and I, as the main town staff on this, our emails are available on the town website, or even come stop by and visit at 131 Pleasant Street. It's the old fire station next to the Stop and Shop. So get your groceries, leave a comment on the harbor plan if you forget about it tonight. Or also feel free to email Kim Starbuck, whose information will be at the end of this as well. So lots of ways to come, or come to the committee meetings. Those are posted meetings too, like Kim said. So we're here to hear from you all. So hopefully we get some great comments.
All right, see Matt?
Sure, someone else can jump in, but I won't be shy. One question about the boundary. You said the boundaries and you said they're not limiting, but they're really where you're focused. How do you decide like how far upstream to go? And I'm thinking in particular about Madaket, where Long Pond is really tidal and dumps so significantly into the harbor. Was that intentionally included? Was it something that makes more sense to not include? Or could you just explain a little bit more about how you do the boundary and whether or not it's important to include more of the upstream water?
Yep, definitely. And Seth might have something to add to this, but I can say that so there was a planning boundary that was for the 2009 plan, and we actually did expand the planning boundary for this, or the planning area for this plan, to encompass some more areas of Madaket and also some more areas of Nantucket Harbor. Most of it was kind of based on flooding and the kind of thing that you're talking about, which where exactly is the water moving to? We have heard some comments from people, which we're currently in the process of discussing about, specifically Madaket, and if it makes sense to expand the boundary a little bit more. And so I believe at our next committee meeting, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And I think maybe I might have just gotten an email from you as well, talking about the boundary. So please send me emails. We definitely want to learn more and see, things that are outside of the boundary. That doesn't mean we will look at things that are happening outside the boundary. So it's not, just we only look at this area. If something is influencing that planning area, we're going to still look at it. But we'll definitely talk about the Madaket area some more. And Seth, you might have some thoughts about how we expanded that Madaket area.
Yeah, thank you, Kim, and thank you, Matt, for your question. So I was the one who advocated for expanding past the 2009 boundary to pick up all of the area of Madaket Ditch. But I indicated that, if we were going to cross Madaket Road and by Second Bridge and go into Long Pond, then we were going to have to pick up all of Long Pond, because as you say, it is tidally influenced. It does connect to the harbor on a daily basis. In addition to my role on this committee, I work at the Linda Loring Nature Foundation, which is the primary landowner on the north head of Long Pond. So obviously we're well connected to that topic. But there's a couple of things that are important to keep in mind here. First is that this current iteration of the harbor plan isn't an indefinite plan. It was done in 2009, done now, and then hopefully it will be updated in 10 years. So as things potentially happen in the coastal resiliency plan, like some of the strategies that are talked about for raising Madaket Road or elevating it or adding additional culverts, maybe in the next iteration of the plan, there might be more of a reason to pick up more of Long Pond. But right now we can still adequately include things that are related to Long Pond, like sea level rise, climate change, pollution, all those impacts, without having it in the planning boundary itself. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Seth. All right, are there other comments? Again, we can hear, different thoughts that people might have about boating, dredging, fishing issues you might be having, anything related to water quality, issues you're seeing with water quality in the harbor, eelgrass, wanting more public access, or new potential access points for water quality.
I'd like to raise a question. My name is Ted Bent. I'd like to raise a question about the management of the public access at Cathcart Road on the harbor. It appears to me that there's very insufficient access to the harbor for people, particularly people who live in town. And consequently, those few access points we have are very overburdened.
Yes, thank you, Ted. Jeff, do you want to maybe jump in on this one?
Sure. So we've talked a lot about, I think, this very issue, Mr. Bent, not even just related to Cathcart Road, but I think what we've heard through a lot of these, and I think anecdotally, we've also talked about it at the committee, is really a lack of shoreside support for our mooring fields, both in Nantucket and Madaket Harbor, where we're inviting a lot of people to boat and providing a lot of mooring and access on the water, but we're not providing the, the parking, the facilities, in some cases, easy to access ice machines to go out and go fishing and doing all of that, that we really need to find ways to encourage and increase that shoreside access. I know the land bank has really been doing a great job, and even just with Cathcart Road, well, it's a little bit further from the water, have definitely added some parking to that lot in specific, and then moving up the slope a little bit up the hill, added another parking lot that's a little bit of a hike, but it's definitely within reason most of the times. But I think in general, the committee has agreed that hopefully one of the goals that will come out of this plan is to really have a focus on enhancing and developing additional shoreside support for our harbors.
What's particularly curious, the land bank now owns a lot of land along Washington Street, but it doesn't provide any real public access to the beach there. Obviously, there's no parking in that area. I have the impression that I live close to Cathcart Road, and the resources of the parking are so overstressed, and yet it's appropriate that people have access to these areas.
Yeah, I think that's well heard. I mean, I think that's a concern that has really been one of the common themes through now the fourth public meeting, that we're inviting people to the harbor. We need to have spots for them to access and leave vehicles and safely get to and from the beach. I do know there's some plans that the town and land bank have been working towards on Washington Street to potentially enhance that area. But I know those are just conceptual, but I think the concept of increased public access and shoreside support is definitely a well heard concern.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Are there any other concerns about shoreside access or facilities that are needed along the shore that you don't have? Or, other areas that if you generally feel like you have good access to the harbor and you're able to do what you would like to on the harbor?
Has there ever been a thought to add an additional boat ramp in the harbor?
Jeff, do you have thoughts on an additional boat ramp?
The short answer to that, Emma, is yes. We've talked about it in many spots. I think it's definitely a need that we've talked about, having additional boat ramp of some kind. I know right now for the main harbor, obviously for Nantucket Harbor, we're really just reliant upon Children's Beach for being the only improved boat ramp. I know last time we had one of these meetings, I got hit up by a couple guys that I go in and out of Wawina and Pulpus all the time, but they're not improved or put in there. And I know that having that, especially just given what we experienced this weekend, where we're looking to get a lot of boats potentially out of the harbor in a hurry, that the Children's Beach boat ramp can definitely get congested and frustrating to deal with. That alternative locations, just for a public safety aspect, I think are something that are going to be important to look at. And I know it's also something that's on the radar of the Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee. And one of the goals of the Coastal Resiliency Plan is to look at those alternative accesses too. So I think that's kind of hopefully probably a longer answer than necessary than a yes, but it's definitely something that's there. If people have suggestions, I think we're open to them. I mean, obviously, when we get a lot is the end of Washington Street, and we've looked at that before, and the town's looked at that before, and there's some difficulties with dredging, and some shellfish and eelgrass resources and some things down there. But we're definitely open to other suggestions or thoughts or ideas about spots that may be a good place for a boat ramp of some kind.
Thanks, Jeff.
No problem.
Let me jump in, Jeff, if you don't mind. It's Ted Bent again. I understood when Great Harbor Yacht Club was created that the lift was going to remain available to larger boats. Is that no longer the case? And if the lift isn't working active, that would be a difficult place for a ramp, even if it requires some dredging, because the congestion at Children's Beach, when there's a rush to get out of the harbor, particularly when the harbor master indicates it's a priority and you have to get your boat out.
Yep. So the short answer to that question is yes, the travel lift is still in place and operational, and they were hauling boats prior to the storm at that location. So that's there. But again, I think there's still a demand even above and beyond the travel lift for an additional boat ramp somewhere to help alleviate the burden on the Children's Beach boat ramp at this point.
Is there not room next to the travel lift?
There may be, like I said, there may be areas that are more appropriate than that spot. I think we'd have to do some additional looking for traffic and roadway conditions, and obviously having enough area to like turn around and do things to get in and out of there. I think that's probably a conversation that we'd have to engage some of our transportation folks in, but I know that they're contributing comments to this as well. So I don't think I could rule that spot out per se. I know it's had some challenges before, but I always think it's worth looking at in the context of trying to find an alternative location.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ted. I did notice a few comments in the chat, mostly people introducing themselves. But I'm curious if anyone that wrote something in the chat might want to expand on their comment or their concerns. Deanne, I don't know if you want to share anything about concerns you might have regarding Chapter 91 enforcement and public access.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
My understanding is that one of the issues Nantucket faces is that there is a virtual lack of enforcement for Chapter 91 licenses, which provide public access to the harbor and to the docks. Is there anything we can do to remedy that?
Yeah, Jeff, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, I'll try. I mean, I think Chapter 9's always been a little bit of the the $1 million question is, so Chapter 91 is a state regulation that's in place and is forced through the Department of Waterways through Mass DEP. There are very exclusive cases where they delegate some level of local enforcement authority to that, to groups like maybe like the Conservation Commission or to the town, depending on the license. I totally agree. I wish there was more follow-up and enforcement with that. I mean, I certainly think that, one of the goals of this plan is to obviously inform future Chapter 91 licenses with what the public interest is and what the access components should or shouldn't be. But I certainly think it's not inappropriate to pose the question about, are there ways that, we can gain some level of local reporting or local enforcement to try to help that out. I mean, they're a program that, like a lot of programs in the state, is, strapped for manpower. That if there was a way that we could expedite that review, I think it would be helpful. But it's definitely a challenge. It's definitely a challenge that we've talked about many times, that we don't really have outside of reporting potential issues with licenses, we don't really have a significant way to address those other than asking real nice sometimes. But I definitely think that the harbor plan is a really great avenue to contemplate some ways to aid the state or request some way to help.
Great, Deanne?
Thank you, Jeff. Then hopefully that can be emphasized in the update of the harbors plan. One other really important objective that I know I'm looking, Alan Reinhardt is on this. I think he's here. But Alan's dream has always been to have a harbor walk from Brand Point around to the creeks. And I know the land bank has slowly been attempting to implement that. But I think if we just don't have public access all around the harbor, there are sections between Brand Point and the creeks that are not open to the public. And I think in the long term, if we can establish a harbor walk, it would be a great step forward. We go out to visit our children in Oakland, and there's a harbor walk around Oakland Harbor, and we don't have one in Nantucket. We can't walk from Brand Point around to the creeks. So hopefully, Kim, in this update of this iteration of the harbors plan, that we could emphasize that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely something we can emphasize in the plan. We'll discuss with the committee and come up with some ideas around that.
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm Marshall Keys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Before I moved to Nantucket full-time about 2000, in the year 2000, I lived on the waterfront in Boston, where in fact there is a harbor walk. It runs basically from the hockey rink in the north end, right before the bridge across to the former Navy Yard, down to, I don't even know where it ends. It probably goes all the way to South Boston. I think this is a matter of will. We've already missed. This is the most important issue to me, which is Chapter 91 enablement of things like harbor walks. We've missed huge opportunities with the construction that's going on Brant Point now. And it seems to me that anytime, too late, but in the future, anytime someone builds a property a house that is substantially larger than the house that was there before, there should be some right of public access, because you can no longer walk down the road and see the water. We need to move the people to the water rather than the houses next to the water. I still can't figure out. I assume that the Nantucket Yacht Club is grandfathered in for a century. But if Boston can do it simply by not permitting development, I lived in a waterfront high-rise, and they couldn't. We had people walking through in front of our door all day long because of the harbor walk there, and it's good. It's a good thing, and I don't know what we would have to change locally, other than building the will. So it's an important issue to me, as it is to Ms. Atherton.
Great. Thank you, Marshall. Yes, we'll definitely make note of this. And I believe we've heard this from a couple other people as well. So it seems like it's important to the community to look into ways to do this. So thank you. And just so everyone knows, we do have a number of note takers on the call today that are writing down all your comments, and we'll also, this is all being recorded, and we have the comments in the chat box. So we're making sure we're getting everything down. All right, I see a couple questions, it looks like. One from Kathy saying she is noticing more algae east of Cathcart area. Does algae development fall in the scope of this project? So definitely it's something that, you know, we are looking at natural resources issues and water quality issues. And so that could relate to algae development. Do you want to expand a little bit on exactly what you're seeing?
Sure, thank you. It's really actually a bit north of Cathcart, but just a lot of algae and also a lot more geese. And, you know, they could relate to one another, but just a lot more algae on the stones that are along the water.
Thank you. Has anybody else noticed something similar? Or I don't know if Emily is on the call here and does a lot of water quality testing. I don't know if Emily has any thoughts on this.
Preempting Emily for a moment, I live in Shimo, and there's significantly more algae on the beach in the Shimo area, and it is related to the geese. That when the geese defecate, it provides a medium for the algae to grow, and it's a cycle. And the more algae there are, the more geese that come in to eat the algae, and apparently it goes round and round and round. And I'm not. It would be nice if there were a civilized way.
I missed the last part of what Ted said, but I would say that the Natural Resources Department definitely does more water sampling in Nantucket Harbor. But I think that the geese could certainly be a contributor. Another thought would be some of the rain that we've had later this season, which could certainly be washing additional nutrients from the surrounding watershed out to the shoreline. That could be another possible source of nutrients for seeing more algae right on the rocks and the beach that way.
All right, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely something that we can look into and make note of as an issue in the plan.
Kim, if I could just add, I think
Sure.
another, based on some of the conversations that we've had so far amongst the committee and at some of these forums, I definitely would see the plan's ability to address this and other water quality issues around recommendations for possibly additional sampling, supplementing what's already being done in different parts of the harbor. I know the Natural Resources Department has already been talking about doing some of this. So I think there are opportunities to expand some of the water quality work that's being done and have some of those recommendations come out through this plan as well. So it's good to hear all of the concerns.
All right, thanks, Kathy and Emily. So I see another comment here, which Emily might also be able to help answer here is, has water quality improved or declined since implementing components of the 2009 plan? If it has declined, are there any projections of how much quality would have further declined without implementation?
I actually can see that Tara Riley is on the call. I might pass this question over to her. Tara, if you want to address it again, because the town's actually done a lot more of this data collection than we have.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Emily. So yeah, we've been testing our water for quite a long time now, and I feel like every year it improves slightly. We've set our total maximum daily loads, which is a threshold for nitrogen that we have to stay below. So we have several programs and initiatives that help us maintain that. Could we be doing better? Of course we could. There's new challenges every year and new pressures on the harbor. And so that's what this plan is going to provide. We're going to be able to update our water quality testing and increase it and the frequency and look at new things that we didn't really consider in the last plan, like ferry speeds and turbidity in the water as a result of that. And, other new chemicals and things that are popping up that are of concern.
All right, thank you, Tara. All right, I see another comment from S. Murphy. With the imminent closing of Tidal Creek Outfitters on Washington Street, does the town have any concern about the ready availability of marine supplies
I
near
don't know
the?
how to even make a comment.
Oh.
I tried 27 times to make a comment, raise my hand. I have no idea how to do it.
You know what? You are talking, so we can hear you. Do you want to share your comment, Rick?
Rick, go ahead. Okay. Yes, that would be great. Thank you. I think I find myself a technological novice.
No problem.
Trying to navigate your website. But you know, what is interesting to me is that I serve as a member in Nantucket on the Roads and Right-of-Way Committee. And I'm not speaking for them, but I am a member. And we have tried repeatedly to have the town share Chapter 91 licenses with our committee that I think would be helpful in dealing with the Harbor Walk issue that was raised earlier. And somehow they just don't seem to be available. I'm hoping that Jeff is on, Jeff Carlson, and we can get back to a situation where all the Chapter 91 licenses on properties abutting the harbor are made available online to anyone who would like to review them, and be assured that public access in front of those properties is available for all to pass and repass. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you, Rick. Jeff, did you have anything you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, real quickly. So for a license to be valid within the Commonwealth and technically be valid, one of the requirements is that it's put on record. So all of the licenses that are currently valid should be on record at the Registry of Deeds. I know that can be kind of a pain to mine out that information. Honestly, that's how we mine out the information. We're looking for those licenses. Certainly open to kind of a greater discussion than this forum probably on efficiency of getting that posted and sorted out and save everyone the trouble of going through the Mass Land Records website or going physically to the Registry of Deeds. And I also understand that doesn't include all of the licenses that may have been filed for, obtained, and not recorded, which happens from time to time. And that's something that is not available through the state yet. They've said that that repository should be online at some point. I think we're all still waiting a little bit, but I think that's a concern that's well heard. And I think something that would be a really good goal to have some sort of easier access for that information.
Yeah, and that's certainly something that we can look into and possibly include in the plan to make it easier for the general public to be able to find those. So yeah, I've done a lot of searching on that website, and it can be a little cumbersome. All right. Matt, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, wondering if this is less a question about what we're doing, but something I've sort of slowly been talking about over the last couple of years is there any good examples you guys have seen out there of groups doing more like live and dynamic water quality monitoring? It just feels like in the world of data collection, that's something that should be out there. And I know the saltwater is harsh on everything, but is that something that's been helpful in communities? Have any communities done it well? Is it something we should, as a community, try to invest into?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know if other Urban Harbors Institute people have examples of other communities that we worked with that had particularly good water quality testing. I mean, I think Nantucket has pretty good water quality testing in general. But if anybody can think of somewhere else that might have, or even Dak, who's here with Woods Hole Group, might have an idea of somewhere else that could be something to look to.
I'll hop in. I actually have a couple examples that I've run into. So there are a few spots, obviously for some really basic parameters, you'll see things. NOAA does kind of real-time collection that they post, but that's mostly related to actual physical properties, temperature and wave height and wave period and things like that. One of the spots that we've looked into a little bit for how to do it and what the resources to do would be. And this is not in Massachusetts, but something that we follow a little bit. For those who remember, just a few years ago on the news, there were lots of stories about when Lake Okeechobee let free, and there were all of the huge algal blooms, and there were manatee deaths in Florida and things like that. Some of those communities there have since installed kind of continuous monitoring stations that post, so people can start to see if conditions are getting in kind of a range. It's almost like weather prediction, right? Where they're looking at it and they're starting to see things, whether it's temperature or dissolved oxygen, or looking at those cycles and posting those more so they can try to predict when those big algal blooms may or may not be, just from those parameters. One of the things that's difficult with some of those water quality parameters is some of them, to get data, require lab work to do. So when we're looking at, nitrogen speciation, where we're looking at all of the parts that are there, unfortunately, or maybe they're available and I just, I don't look in the right spots, or our water quality folks, because they're probably crazy expensive. Those all require in-lab processing, so there's a turnaround time on those that can be a little bit of a slowdown. But I certainly am interested if people have a resource or know of something. I'm sure that somewhere they do something similar. But if people have suggestions, I definitely looked at it, but would certainly be interested to pursue that a little bit further.
Great, thanks.
All right, thank you. I want to make sure I get to, it's S. Murphy. So with the imminent closing of Tidal Creek Outfitters, does the town have concerns about the readily available supply of marine supplies near the harbor? Jeff, do you have thoughts on that one?
Sure. I actually would definitely encourage someone to go back, as terrible as it may sound, and watch the last committee meeting. This was like #1 topic of conversation, was what was happening with, you specifically mentioned Tidal Creeks, but what was happening down there and the need for a ship chandlery. I think it's definitely something where, the committee was very concerned about having that as a resource in close proximity for just basic things, whether it's, new dock lines or radios, or, a PFD or any of those things, to have that somewhere in that area. I'm not sure the best way to approach that from a plan standpoint, whether we want to find ways to incentivize those businesses. I don't want to speak 100% for the town in this case, but I'm not sure that the town is interested in owning a ship chandlery or doing that, because I think that may be fraught with problems for us. But it's definitely a concern, and something that I know we've talked about greatly, in the committee obviously spent the bulk of their last meeting talking about. So it's definitely something that's high on the list.
Yeah, and Jesse, did you want to add something?
I just wanted to, I don't know if it's clear to everybody. I mean, certain things are really obvious about what this plan covers, but I thought maybe you could touch on, the economic redevelopment, which I think that question is really getting at. How does this plan influence economic redevelopment? Like, as we know, there's going to be some redevelopment in the near future, like 5 to 10 years. And how does this plan influence that? If you can speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, we'd like to hear really from you all on what concerns you might see moving forward with any sort of economic changes that are going to be happening. If you see changes happening in the workforce, the fishing communities, with the charter boats, with we'd like to hear from you all. Are there concerns? Do you have concerns about shoreside access and continued shoreside access? And so really, all of that kind of falls under the umbrella. We'll have a section in the plan that's specifically on the commercial waterfront and the economic piece, and how important the commercial waterfront is to Nantucket. So we want to make sure that we're understanding concerns that people might have around that.
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
So a lot of my work has been more on the land side of food production, but looking at some of the water, like fishing and whatnot, is the goal to look towards where we maybe want to be for more resilient, or more hearing the challenges of current fishermen? Because I think one of the unasked question is, what do we need to do to get people who aren't fishing or might want to be but are struggling to get into it back into the industry, or growing up and to stay in the industry? And those aren't people who are going to answer the questions around what we need. They're not in the industry, or they might leave it. Like, are you guys looking more like economic and food system resiliency looking forward and trying to fill gaps, or is it more focused on meeting the needs of current fishermen?
I would say it's really both. So it would be looking at, what are the current problems that might be happening or the current needs of the fishermen. But if, fishermen like resiliency or trying to get more people into the community, if that is a concern, which it sounds like it is, that's definitely something we can highlight about ways to possibly encourage more people to get into the fishery at different stages of their life. Yeah, thank you. I see Brian has his hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to touch on, we talked about at the beginning about fuel access locations. Right now, there's only the two, one in Mattocket and one in the Nantucket Main Harbor. When Great Harbor Yacht Club formed, they had an agreement with the state that they were going to provide fuel, and that never went to fruition. And let's face it, that's really the only other place, one of the yacht clubs, maybe the town pier, if there's like some kind of lease agreement with the town, but I don't think we're ever going to see fuel unless they're held up to their agreement.
Thank you, Brian. We'll make sure to mark that down. And we have heard that from a couple other people as well. So it's definitely a concern of folks. All right, I see in the chat, Charlie Walters said specifically he'd like to see increased monitoring of Long Pond, partly because it connects to Hither Creek and thus Mattocket Harbor, and also because the pond is very close to the town landfill. Charlie, did you want to add anything to that, or is that? It's certainly something that we can write down, and other people have mentioned that as well, so.
It took me a minute to unmute, so.
Oh yeah, no worries.
Apologize. No, I don't think so. I'm more aware of that because I did some research into the Mattocket ditch, so I know there is a problem out there. And the landfill, I guess, is my most important point in my comment. How much stuff is coming out of there? How long does it take to get to Long Pond? What is it? I don't think you could ignore or play down Long Pond just because it's not technically part of the harbor.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, even though it's not technically part of the harbor, it's still something that we can make note of. It still is influencing the harbor, and therefore it's important to the harbors. So we can definitely make note of that.
Thank you.
All right, I see Sanford. Hi, I am a year-round resident and think water quality initiatives should give priority, since without healthy harbors, the other issues become mute, which, yes, very, very good comment. Did you want to expand on that at all?
Yeah, no, thanks. That was it.
Great. And from Burton, hi, Burton. One question or comment, one of the water quality issues was talked about during the harbor report. During the harbor report was turbidity. Is there anything that can be done to address the turbidity problem? Does anybody, like maybe Tara or Emily, have a thought on that?
I think like one of the things that is a new issue that wasn't addressed in the last harbor plan has to do with the increase in the amount of ferry traffic and just overall harbor traffic that we're experiencing. We have ferries coming from, all over the place now on, a faster schedule and cruising into the harbor pretty quickly. Not all of them slow down. Not all of them slow down on a year-round basis. And it just creates a lot of turbidity in the water, which is, creates a cloudy situation that blocks out sunlight, and that affects our eelgrass. It affects the water quality, and it's, a lot of people, a lot of other harbor entrances, you creep and crawl very slowly into them. And Nantucket Harbor, it seems like people, they're supposed to slow down at the cut, but it doesn't always happen. And I see it because I'm at Brant Point, and You know, that's one of the issues that I would like to see discussed and come up with, you know, some options for how to handle stuff like that. And besides the turbidity, the increased wave action too from the wakes and stuff also is like a physical pressure that's added to the habitat as well.
And I guess I would just add on to that. I agree with everything that Tara just said. And in addition, as we see declines in the health of our eelgrass population, the sediment is just not being held in place as securely as it was when there was more eelgrass. And I think also I'm hopeful that this plan update will incorporate some additional recommendations to help us improve and maybe better enforce some of the existing regulations we have, like our fertilizer program, and also address some additional recommendations for stormwater. I know the town's moving in the right direction on stormwater, but certainly without properly cleaning out our catch basins, and there's also a lot more material that enters the harbor from those outfall pipes.
All right, great, thank you. And Steve?
Yeah, one other issue that I see as far as turbidity goes too is primarily down at Steamboat Wharf with the number of barges that are coming in, which is almost a constant thing. While they're unloading these barges, a lot of times the tugboats just stay in gear rather than just tying off and shutting their motors down. It's easier for them to put their bow right up into the barge and just keep that prop turning for hours on end. So that might be something that we could look at as far as a bylaw or something to address that situation. And that might help with some turbidity and wake issues.
Thank you. All right, are there other comments? Yes, Matt.
Just one more. But going back to the boundary and then adding in Charlie's question around the dump and Long Pond monitoring, I think there's a little bit of maybe almost a political question, but where if the dump is one layer upstream from Long Pond and Long Pond is one layer upstream from Madaket Harbor, when you guys are in your working sessions, maybe just worth, I don't know if there's anything talking about it here can help, but just figuring out how close you get to the source of the problem gives you more access to it. I think if we don't include Long Pond, getting all the way upstream to the dump feels less likely. Maybe it's just more than can be tackled in this, but the more things pushing on, the more reasons we have to tackle the bigger, trickier upstream problems, I think the better. And that would be a reason it seems good to go at least further upstream to the ponds.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And so in 2 weeks, we have committee meetings every other Monday at 1 o'clock at the trailer or on Zoom. And we're going to be talking at the next meeting. I believe Bruce from Madaket is going to come to that meeting and talk a little bit more about the planning area in Madaket. So Matt, if you're able to attend, if not, we can just communicate through email, but we can figure that out. All right. Any other comments? I see one that just came in, Tom. I'd like to bring up Petrel Landing, whatever it takes to battle that out legally with neighbors and make the existing plan a reality needs to be done. Okay. Jeff, do you know more about that?
I think I'll turn that question over to Jesse Bell.
We are battling that out legally. We have been for quite some time. And yeah, I mean, we want to get it done as much as everybody else does. And the design was done at a time where, resiliency wasn't really even a thought. So I think we will need to look at that. But at the same time, we also want to get something done there. So, but we're working on it. We continue to work on it. So.
Great, thank you. All right.
Just if I may, can I say
Yes.
one more thing, just to follow up?
Appreciate that. And I know, I've been talking about this with Eric years ago, so I know I've emailed Jesse about it, but, just as something that's already planned and, I know it might not be perfect going forward, but, it goes back to just getting something down, accessibility, recreational and commercial, just a waterfront access. It's really the perfect spot, and just kind of getting something going. Whether it's
Yeah.
charter boats that don't have moorings or slips, picking people up there, whatever the case may be, it's a good start, I think.
Right. I think the key is just making sure that whatever we do doesn't preclude future adaptations, design wise. Just making sure that we're not doing anything that we need to undo in the future. But it's definitely on the, front burner. It has been, and we it's just been a struggle, but we're getting there. I mean, interestingly, actually, we're working with NIR to permit the Mickey Rowlands building, which is on I guess it's the south side of Petrel Landing, to the north side of Petrel Landing, which if that gets permitted, which hopefully it will, hopefully that will move in the spring, and that will open up yet another lot, on the harbor there. So that's in my opinion, a really great thing too. And opens up, more possibility in the future.
All right, thanks, Jesse. I see another comment from Brian. Create a commercial only boat ramp next to Great Harbor Yacht Club. Boatyards pay to use. Will rid excess traffic through the town, and also make the children's ramp open for everyone else. Make the town pier similar to the boat basin, expand the floating piers. Great, thank you. Is that something that the town has considered, Jeff?
I think to all of those things, they've definitely come up before, but I think hopefully that'll be something we'll revisit during the planning process for all of those points.
Great. All right, any final comments? We're getting towards the end. Again, this isn't the only chance to participate. We do have a couple more slides, and then I want to share, actually, if somebody from Urban Harbors Institute wouldn't mind putting a link to the survey in the chat box, and then also a link to the online mapping tool in the chat box. Those are two different ways that you can participate. But does anybody have any final comments or questions that they'd like to share for this meeting? All right, thank you. It was very helpful to hear from all of you, and we're looking forward to continuing to work with you all on this. So I'll go through a couple slides, and then I want to show you guys this really cool online mapping tool that was developed by Woods Hole Group. So just some next steps. Right now, we're doing a number of interviews and meetings with people to talk about all of these different types of issues. So talking with all the committee members and key people in the town that want to have interviews. If any of you would like to talk to us one-on-one, we're happy to. We'd love to, hear what you'd like to see happen in the harbors. We have the survey again, which we'd love for you all to participate in. Already we have something like 400 responses, which is that might be one of our best surveys yet. So clearly Nantucket is really values their harbors and really wants to see something great come out of this. We will be having another public meeting, likely once we have the draft plan finalized. And so we'll be working over the next couple of months to get the sections of the draft plan together. And then we'll share that with the community and host another draft plan. So you can come back to us at that point and say, if we got it right, did we get it wrong? If you have other things you'd like to see in it. We'd love for you guys to stay engaged. If you'd like to talk to the town about anything specific, you can email Jeff and Tara. You can send specific comments directly to me if you'd like to. We have a running document just of comments that people send through email. So you can send that. We have kind of a long website link there. That is the Harbor Plan website. That has links to the survey, information on the plan. It has a link to the 2009 plan. You can also scan that QR code and it will take you directly to the town website. All right. So thank you guys all for attending. I want to jump in and show you the online mapping tool. All right, so you can access that online mapping tool in the link that's in the chat box. And here you can see Nantucket, obviously. So this was developed by Woods Hole Group by Dak, who was on here earlier. And they did a great job with this tool. You can see the planning areas again, which are, you know, basically all the other areas are grayed out. But you can see how it expands up to Muskeget and Tuckernuck, Madaket, and then we've got Nantucket over here. The instructions are on the left-hand side. So basically to use this, you go up to the right-hand corner, which is up here, and you can make a comment. And the point of this really is to make a comment that's specific to an area on the harbor. So let's say if you had a comment specifically about Brant Point. What you would do is you would zoom in. So you can either zoom in up here on the left with the plus arrow up here, or using your mouse. You zoom in and find Brant Point. And then what you can do is then you end up making a comment. So right up here on the upper right-hand side, you can see this is how you make a comment. And what you do is you select what you'd like to make a comment about. So it could be boating and commercial waterfront, fishing and natural resources, public access, flooding, or then anything else. And then you make a point. And you can put your name in if you'd like to. You can put your email. And one of the questions is, what category does your concern fall under? And this might be a little redundant, but I can't remember what I clicked on. Other. What do you suggest is done to address your concern? So you can say improve, expand, reduce, mitigate, or other. And then you can add any sort of issues you're having. Want more public access. And then that's basically it. And then you click it away and then it's still there. So we'll be able to really pinpoint your issue and be able to relate it to a specific part of Nantucket Harbor. So if you want to erase something, you can go down here. There's an erase button and you can erase. If you want to redo something, you can use these little buttons down here. If you want to find an address or a place, you can put it up here and put in exactly what you're looking for. And yeah, you can then just generally see over here all the different instructions if you're having any problems. There are also a couple of layers that you might be interested in, some that show flooding. So if you're specifically looking to make a comment, let's say on the flooding, which is right down here, what you can do is you can turn on a layer and it will show, so these are some state modeled flooding layers that show areas that are going to end up flooding in the future or probabilities of certain flooding happening. So what you could do is if you're considering wanting to put something down on flooding and want to take a look at these different data layers that show the flooding potentials, what you can do is click on this. So this would be for 2030. This is 2050. And this is under, you know, kind of current conditions or current outlooks. Or you can go into 2070 and turn that one on and kind of get a look at what flooding might look like, which might end up helping your commenting. So that's generally the tool. Did I miss anything, Urban Harbors Institute?
I don't think so, except that you can see other people's comments. So as you log on and more people begin to populate it, you can look at other people's comments and see what they said. You cannot delete them, but you can certainly read what others want to say.
Great. Does anybody have any questions about the online mapping tool?
Yes, how do you find it?
Yes, so we have a link. I'll put it in the chat again. Do you see the chat box over on the right-hand side of the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so if you click that link, it should take you directly there. And what we can do is we can stay on for a little bit if anybody wants to play around with the tool and ask some questions. We can stay around for, 10 minutes or so and help you out. Yes, Steve?
Yeah, hi, Kim. Well, is there also going to be a link to the to this tool on the town website where the harbor committee is?
Yes, definitely. And we'll also be putting up this link. So this is actually a new tool that's live today. So you guys are the first ones to be taking this, taking the survey through this tool, and we'll put this up on the website as well, the town website. All right, anything else, Jeff or Tara? All right, well, thank you guys all so much for coming. We really appreciate your comments. Please stay in touch. And, we've provided many different ways to get in touch with us, so feel free to email me. We can get you on our email list if you're interested. Take the survey, and we want to keep hearing from you. So
Yes,
feel free.
thank everyone for coming.
I know it's dinner time right now, so I'm sure you're all hungry, but we'll stay on for another 10 minutes or so if anybody wants to stay on and ask questions about the online tool. Great. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, everyone.
I have one question. What is the survey?
Yep. So the survey, did you see the link in the chat?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So it is, I believe there are 6 or 7 questions. It should take about 5 to 10 minutes for you to take it. And basically it's kind of going over the same kind of thing we talked about today. So wanting you to think about these different ways that you might relate to the harbor and any issues that you're seeing, any recommendations you have for the future, any needs that you think the harbor has. So those are really, the big things.
And that's what you showed on screen with what you were doing?
No, so that's, sorry, it's a little confusing. That is, what I showed on the screen is an online mapping tool that kind of gives you another way to give information. The survey, which I can share the screen to, is it doesn't have the mapping component to it, but it's a way to, you can go through and answer some questions. So
Oh,
identify.
so this is on the town site.
Yep, this is on the town website. Yep, so you can go through and answer, I don't want to answer questions because I don't want to skew the data here, but you can go through and say, you know, your relation to the Nantucket and Mattocket harbors, and then move on to answer specific questions that we have.
Okay, and how do I do I go straight to the town site and it's right there?
Here, why don't I put it right into the chat box so you can get right to it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Hi, Kim. I had a question. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Great meeting. Thank you. So on that tool, how much detail is okay? For instance, if I wanted to indicate a resilience idea that ties together the reality that the watersheds are part of the problem if fertilizer and other things are entering the waterways. So the zone near the harbor, I mean, it's complicated because there's so much that ends up in the water that's not on the edge of the coast. So one example of probably many is out here by Folgers Marsh, in Folgers Marsh actually, is the road. It'd be nice to elevate. Is that level of detail too much, or is that what you're looking for?
Excuse me, sorry, I started sneezing. Yes, I think any information you want to provide is never too much information, and feel free, you know, sometimes your comment might not relate to just one specific point. It might be, you know, a larger area. So you can write in your comment, this relates to, you know, this specific part of the watershed or what have you. So yeah, I would say, you know, as much detail as you can provide, that would be great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Kim. I had another comment. My connection's really bad, though. I keep dropping out. So I just tried to put a dot right there at Folgers Marsh on the road, but when you're outside of the boundary of the project, it won't let you mark. So I don't know if that's something you said, but I just realized that, so I thought I'd share that.
Oh, thank you. Let me try that. So if you're outside the boundary, it wouldn't let you put the point?
That's it. Yes, it tells you that. So maybe it lets you put a point, but it ends up on the edge of the boundary, but it will say in the box out of a project boundary or something to that effect. But I think you can still write something.
Okay.
I just don't know where, if it will let, like, so for instance, the Long Pond comments.
Yep.
You might not be able to put them in. I don't know, but that's what I just saw. Just wanted to
Okay.
share that
I
with
think
you.
it should all still be, I think we'll still be able to access it. When
You can describe it.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know.
Yeah. I would, yeah, make sure you describe it, and I'll check with Woods Hole Group and just see if that's an issue. It seems to let me put the point there, but I'll check with them and make sure.
Kimberly, could I just ask one last question?
Yes.
Okay, how will this map tool be popularized for the people who weren't in this meeting?
Yeah, so I have an ongoing email list and that from people that have attended the meeting. So we're going to send it out to all those people. We'll put it up on the town website, put it up on Facebook. But we'd be open to any other suggestions you might have, or feel free to circulate it broadly. We'd like lots of people to be able to use this.
Yeah, so this is something that you'd want people to see and use
Yeah, definitely.
as the main source of complaints.
Yep.
So maybe it would be effective to do, I don't want to dirty up the world with QR codes, but because I know how many of us feel about having those everywhere, but
right.
Having those at like centralized locations at the harbors potentially.
Oh, yeah. That's a great idea. Yeah,
just in case.
Definitely do that.
All right. Just wanted to stick that point out there.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I can talk to the town about maybe they can get some flyers posted.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, any other questions before we sign off? All right, well, thanks everyone for joining. We'll be in touch.
Good job, Kim. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.